Yesterday, not only did we get word that the Padres were going to hire Mike Shildt, within a matter of hours, they made it official with a press conference. So as per usual, A.J. Preller and his group working in a shroud of secrecy. Shildt is leaked, announced, and made official all within about a 3-hour span.
Matt and Jake, good morning. Happy Thanksgiving Eve to Lauren as well. And where I'll begin with Shildt is this. Two things stand out. Number one, he had spent 2 years in the Padres front office, the 2022 and 23 seasons. So A.J. Preller got very familiar with him. They've got a very strong working relationship. A.J. trusted Mike Shildt with a lot of different assignments during those couple years, whether it was on field or scouting, evaluating. Mike Shildt understands the organization in a 360 manner at a time where, candidly, we do not know what this roster is going to look like when they arrive at spring training. Is Juan Soto going to be traded? So Mike Shildt knows the personnel that the Padres may need to rely on based on the changes that could be coming. That's first and foremost. The second part is we're talking about a very successful manager. He managed 3 full seasons with the Cardinals. He made the playoffs in all 3 of those seasons. It's difficult to second guess what he achieved there. Was there a difference of opinion at the end between Mike Shildt and John Mozeliak? Obviously, yes. That's why he was out of a job after those 3 full seasons. But Mike Shildt has a really strong way of bonding with his players, getting the most out of his roster, and loves the game. He will talk baseball with you all day long if he could. And I think A.J. Preller, with the way that A.J. works, that around-the-clock mentality, he has found someone in Mike Shildt who's very simpatico with the way that he views the game.
Interesting. Now, there's other business in terms of the player personnel. We talked about this. You mentioned it a moment ago, including a particular high-end reliever who is likely not to be returning to San Diego. If that's the case, where does Josh Hader end up for 2024?
Matt, to your point, I do expect Josh Hader to go elsewhere. The Padres are just not going to be able to play in that marketplace with where Josh Hader's salary is likely to go. I'm looking at 2 teams that were part of baseball's Final Four who want to upgrade their bullpen this offseason. The Rangers and the Phillies. Both of them at different times in the playoffs. Of course, the Rangers were still able to win the World Series, but they both had bullpen concerns. And Hader, with the way that you could utilize him, would address a lot of those worries. I would also point this out, Matt and Jake. Which manager in Major League Baseball knows how to get the best out of Josh Hader? The guy who now manages just down the road from Milwaukee, where he was so successfully for so many years, in Craig Counsell. Yes, they have Alzolay, who pitched quite well during the course of the season, but if you're the Cubs, and if you believe you've got the makings of a World Series team this year, and or you believe you want to build out a club that Shohei Ohtani looks at and says, hey, I want to play at Wrigley Field, signing Josh Hader would make you more of a World Series contender and certainly would improve your status in the Shohei sweepstakes as well.
JP, I'm going to make a case for Hader to the Cubs later on in the show. Great info there. You just mentioned Juan Soto possibly not being on the Padres roster. What are you hearing on that front of him getting moved?
Yes, Jake, I do believe the market for Soto is robust, and there are enough teams out there to where I think a trade is not only possible, it's possible before the winter meetings are over. Now, it is only a 1-year scenario, Jake, and that can have a way of tempering the value in the marketplace, but we're still talking about one of the best offensive players in the game, even in a quote-unquote down year for him last year. Here were his numbers. He's still at 35 homers. He still drove in 109 runs. I mean, this is an elite of the elite talents. The Padres gave up a ton to get him. Maybe they're hoping to recoup 70% of the prospect value that they gave up in that trade because obviously there's much less time left on his deal. The New York Yankees, to me, are the team to watch. The in-division rival Giants are another. And I mention those 2 teams because they're also linked to Cody Bellinger. Bellinger is a similar player in some respects. Lefty bat, obviously. Soto has the more consistent track record. Bellinger has the value of being able to play first base as well. Bellinger is on the open market, whereas Soto is a 1-year trade. But I think there's going to be some overlap between those 2 marketplaces. Bellinger as a free agent, Soto as a bat. And I have to believe the Yankees, with the surprising dearth of left-handed power that they had this year, Jake, the Yankees are going to be all over Soto in the same way that they're all over Cody Bellinger.
We want to hit you on one more player here.
There's only one more. There is only one more.
I know. One more issue for you before we move on, and it's not a Padres story. It's that of the Tampa Bay Rays. Look, Tyler Glasnow is about to get paid here. He's entering that phase of his major league tenure. We know that doesn't always sit well in Tampa. As good as he is, as dominant as he is, maybe one of the top 5 starters in the sport, it appears that he might be elsewhere in 2024. Do you agree with that?
I do, Matt. I do. I think there's a very high chance that Glasnow is elsewhere by opening day, by the beginning of spring training. I'm not going to predict a timeline on this trade for the next couple weeks, though, because there is so much talent still out there in free agency. We've talked about this a bit in the context of Dylan Cease and Shane Bieber as well. I think there's a reason why we have not seen a number of robust trades for all-star level starting pitchers yet. And that's because Blake Snell is out there. Sonny Gray is out there. Yoshinobu Yamamoto notably was posted just yesterday. So we believe that Yamamoto's contract, he could sign by the end of the winter meetings, which could, I believe, quicken up the pace of the overall free agent market. You're just not going to see a lot of teams that are going to give up prospects. Take, for example, the Cardinals, how busy they've been in free agency. They'd rather sign the guys who are out there now as opposed to parting with someone like a Mason Wynn to bring in a starting pitcher. So I do believe Glasnow will move. I believe Bieber will move. There's a very strong chance that Dylan Cease will move. Just not yet, because there are so many high-end starting pitchers still available in free agency.